Morning YouTubers, welcome to one of my videos. Well, it's not quite a video, it's going to be a photo slideshow while I talk about recycling, and this is what we found recycling in the home. But what I'll do is I'll also cover off what we do in the motorhome, but I'm firstly going to start off talking about home and the number of waste bins. We have 3 waste bins on wheels called wheelie bins, and we have a food caddy. We'll start with the food caddy. We obviously, any food waste we have, we put it in biodigestible bags, which goes into the green caddy, and that's collected every 2 weeks. We don't have a lot of food waste because we might have a few potato peelings and things like that, and the actual food waste, when it's collected from the houses, it's then biodigested into gas or something which makes electricity, and then the remainder of the food waste goes into like animal feed and things like that, or as like compostable material for growing other plants and things like that. Now, the black bin is basically everything that is not recyclable. The green wheelie bin is for garden waste, such as grass cuttings, weeds and things like that, and that, I believe, is turned into compost, which you can purchase once they've processed it. The brown bin and the final bin is cardboard, glass, recyclable plastic. So that just covers off the different bins we have. So just recapping on the bins: black is general waste, brown is recycling, glass, cardboard, paper, plastic. The green wheelie bin is for garden waste, and the food bin is obviously for food waste. Now, one of the things we find is it depends on the season. If it's summer, it's different to winter in terms of the amount of waste. Obviously, in the summer there's a lot more garden waste, grass cuttings and weeding the garden and wood and things like that, and in the winter there's obviously less of that, but food changes because food, we may be buying more packet ready meals and things like that, we may be, but overall we don't need to put our bins out every 2 weeks. We could probably get away with 3 weeks or even a month. The food waste bin does really have to go out, more frequent, because the simple reason is, it smells. Now, so we recycle as much as we can, metal tins, glass bottles and things like that, and we put it in the brown bin. And we do our best, and it's very time consuming. And so I did notice one morning when the bins were out that the council van arrives and he put everything in one lorry or van. So everything we sorted to do with food waste, recycling, general waste, all ended up in one lorry. And I thought, we've spent ages and ages sorting that out and cleaning stuff and making sure we got the right thing, only to find that when it came to the collection day, they put it all in one lorry and it wasn't separated, it just all went in together. And I thought, what is the point of this? What is the point of sorting it? Total waste of time. Now, it was managed by Kia Group. Now, Kia Group no longer do it. It's combined with 2 towns now, and They do actually separate in the lorries. So that really put me off. The other thing that happened was, if you have a faulty fridge, what do you do with it? Because the recycling centre stopped accepting fridges. So all of a sudden, where I live, people were stacking fridges and old washing machines, things like that, outside my garage. That's okay. They're saying that the council will collect them. What happens to them from then on, I don't know. But we do have travellers that visit the streets at least twice a week. And what the travellers were doing is, with the metal, they would actually smash them up in the street. So the washing machines, they would hit them with hammers and take all the metal and leave all the plastic in front of my garage. Same with the fridge. They would smash them up, release all the gas into the atmosphere, take the compressor unit and any metal and leave the rest. On some occasions, they would dump the plastic in one of the neighbours' bins that's out in the street, which meant that when the people come to collect them, they looked in the bin and said, "We're not emptying this bin, it's not been sorted." So there's been all sorts of issues with recycling. Now, the next thing is to do with engine oil. Now, I do change my own vehicles and change the oil, and the recycling centre is really good. You can take your old engine oil, put it in a big container, and they will obviously, they make money from it because it gets reused, cleaned up and turned back into oil. Really good. Now I'm going to talk about cars. My car, I put between £30 and £40 a month of diesel in my car, and I do under 5,000 miles a year in it. We try and walk wherever we can, but what I'm really annoyed about is I bought the diesel car based on what the government was telling me, that they're more greener to own a diesel car. Now it's the opposite. They want to get rid of all the diesel cars on the market. So I'm two minds what to do, because I don't use a lot of fuel, as you can imagine. I don't do a lot of driving, so to me it seems still more greener to own a diesel than a petrol engine. You know, it just seems more common sense, but the government says they're not. I don't live in a built-up area, you know, one thing or another, and the speed limit in most of the town is 20 miles an hour. Anyway, you know, and when I did own a petrol car, on a good day it would do 12 to the gallon. On a bad day it would do 6, because when I'm driving around the town it would be always on the choke, if you know what the choke is on a petrol engine. So that's another moan to do with me and recycling. Now I'm going to talk about electricity now. Now electricity in the home, we use economy 7 at night, and we put on anything that takes a lot of power in the night, so it's on a cheaper tariff, like the washing machine, or if I am charging any big, like car batteries, if I'm doing anything like that, it's done in the middle of the night. Now when the phones need charging and my cameras need charging, I have a small solar panel in one of the bedrooms, and that charges a power bank. I then use the power bank to charge my phones. This saves money on electricity because I'm not drawing it from the grid, I'm actually using solar. In terms of water usage, we do have a dishwasher. People saying, oh, they use a lot more energy and all the rest of it. Well, if there's only two of you, it makes sense to stock the dishwasher as full as possible. So we have to have lots of extra cutlery, lots of extra dishes, lots of extra things, you know, pots and pans. So that it only goes on like once a week. Whereas if we're just washing 2 cups, we'd run the hot water and things like that. In another way of saving water, our shower is above the bath. So when we have a shower, we put the plug in the bath. We then transfer the water into buckets, and we use the buckets to flush the toilet. And there's an old saying, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. So if it's just a pea, we don't always flush it straight away. And we find that the water, because we use less water, we save money. We also have 2 water butts. We have one on the house and one on the shed. And we save water, and we use that water again occasionally for flushing the toilet, washing the car, watering the plants, putting water in the bird bath, because we have a bird bath, so the birds can have a bath in the summer. We save approximately in water £20 a month. It's reduced our bills by to do with water, and that's quite significant. Now then, let's talk about feeding the birds. We have stopped feeding the birds. We used to love feeding the birds with scraps and things like that, but because there's been rats in the area, and anything that's spilt by the birds, the rats have been getting, so we've had to stop feeding the birds, because we're against some fields, and there's quite a few rats, you know, in fields and things like that. Now, other ways we've saved money is we buy green coffee beans, and we roast our own beans, and I do that in the garden. And the reason why we do that, you can have a reasonably good quality coffee for the same price as instant coffee, and you don't have the jar situation. You buy a sack of beans and we roast them. Alright, there's electricity involved in roasting them, but at least you know what's going into the coffee. Jane makes the bread, and again we buy wheat in 20 or 40 kilogram bags, and we have a electric wheat mill which we grind it into flour. And again we do this because at least we know what's in the flour, you know, there's no extra stuff, and we're using the whole grain, so it's got bran in it and things like that. We don't separate the white flour from the bran. And Jane makes sourdough bread, pizza bases, loaves, rolls and things like that. There's no script to my video and talk about trying to be green and lower our carbon footprint, and so I'm jumping from subject to subject a little bit. But anyway, in the area we live, there's plenty of supermarkets. We have an Asda, Tesco's, Morrison, 2 Aldi's, Lidl, Iceland, Farm Foods and a few others, and they have in their car parks, most of them have a way of recycling bottles, newspapers and clothes, which is absolutely brilliant. The problem is though, is to do with excuse me, buying food without plastic. It's a major problem, and we're failing on it terribly, because a lot of the foods we like do have some form of plastic in them. You buy a bag of bananas and it is in a bag and it's plastic. You buy them loose and the bags they give you to put them in to weigh are plastic. you buy from the bakery, and it's in a paper bag with a plastic windows if you want cookies or donuts or stuff. So it's an absolute nightmare. But what we have succeeded in reducing is a number of plastic bottles. For cleaning products, we just use washing up liquid and vinegar. We don't buy hair shampoo, because one is I've got very little hair, and hand soap. Around the house we've got soap dispensers, and we basically buy bubble bath in large bottles, and I also use that for like shower gel basically with bubble bath. Yeah, so that cuts down obviously the number of bottles. We don't buy furniture polish, we don't buy floor cleaner, sink cleaner, all these different cleaners for doing specialist jobs. You know, even cleaning the oven out is the good old-fashioned Brillo pads, and you can reuse those because they're still wool with a bit of soap. So our main cleaning is vinegar and washing up liquid. I'm now going to move over to talk about the motorhome. Cleaning within the motorhome is fairly straightforward. Again, it can be vinegar and washing up liquid and not much else. The only thing is you can get eco washing up liquid, which is biodegradable. But the problem is with this biodegradable washing up liquid, if you read it, it's only biodegradable if it's tipped in soil, earth, or whatever you like to call it. It doesn't biodegrade in water when you throw it away. So the best thing is with your washing up liquid water is, rather than put it down a drain, you just throw it in the hedge. It's something to bear in mind. And vinegar, you know, it's white vinegar we're talking about here, and that can be used for cleaning. And you can dilute it in water, and it does remove stains on roof linings and things like that, as I showed you in a video. Now, one thing we do in the motorhome, we don't bother with hair shampoo. We have a bar of Dove soap. We have a bar of Dove soap each, and they're very low cost, and they come in a cardboard box. And basically I've found with washing with them and using them in the shower, a bar of soap can last me 5 or 6 weeks, and it gets to the point that the bar of soap is so small you can't hold it, but that works extremely well in a motorhome. Now, in terms of the toilet, you obviously can get blue. For the chemical toilet, you can get blue liquid or green liquid. The green liquid is more acceptable in a lot of campsites, and it's not so harmful as the blue stuff. However, I have found that it's not as good. I still prefer the blue chemical in the toilet. Now, we're talking about recycling and carbon footprint and all this sort of thing, trying to be more greener with rubbish. The biggest problem we find with the motorhome is shopping. You know, you're limited on what you can get in the van, so you tend to buy things which are in packaging, plastic packaging, and it's very difficult not to. Obviously, if you're at home, you've got a more choice of supermarkets because you know where they are, and you get to know what you can buy in plastic and not in plastic. But when you're away travelling, you're limited to a corner shop or something like that, and everything's in plastic. What we do, we try and source out the non-plastic food, which is very, very difficult to do, and we have separate bags for recycling. But the thing with that is, because we have a very small motorhome, we don't have a lot of storage space, and it takes up an awful lot of storage. So what we tend to do is when we go to a supermarket, we wheel the trolley to the motorhome, we unpack it and we try and get rid of as much plastic as possible in the supermarket car park. And we put it in their bins if they have them. We don't sort it, we just put it in their bins. It's their rubbish, they can sort it. However, a lot of people have been doing this, and a lot of supermarkets now do not have waste bins. For this reason, because everybody's getting rid of their plastic and other sorts of packaging. We remove the packaging because simple reason, we don't have a lot of room in the fridge, and if you buy 4 burgers in a plastic tray, we take them out and we put them in small containers that we can reuse, or we've got these biodegradable bags we can put them in and put them in the fridge, and we put them in twos. So that means, 4 burgers goes in 2 bags and they'll fit in the ice compartment in the fridge. Milk, we tend to go for long life milk in the van because it's in a cardboard carton. However, that still has a plastic top, and also a lot of people don't know is the cardboard is plastic lined inside to stop the milk from going into the cardboard. So that can be an issue. But it's so difficult to do when you're in a motorhome and you're travelling. And tin stuff we can obviously recycle, we can wash and then put them in squash them and put them in a bag, things like that. But we are very limited. We tend to go to bakeries and get bread wherever we can in a brown paper bag and things like that. But it's very, very difficult. Now, in terms of having a diesel motorhome, to do with reducing the carbon footprint, things like that, our diesel motorhome is very slow and not very good at accelerating, but it does return 40 miles to the gallon, and it has a top speed around about 50. You can get it up to 60, but 50 is its limit, and it's very economical. And what we tend to do with fuel, just to save money, we go away from major roads to fill up with fuel when we can, as long as it's not too far. The price is obviously a lot cheaper, and you can get diesel, a litre of diesel at the moment for £1.26. If you're going in the motorway services, it's £1.45. So from our point of view, that saves us money. And okay, let's talk about then heating in the van. Heating in the van is via electric, when we've got electric hookup, and also we have a diesel heater, and these Chinese diesel heaters, but we tend to run it on paraffin. And the reason why we run it on paraffin is cleaner. It's the same price in most places per litre as diesel. You can get it as low as 68 pence providing you use heating oil. And the reason why we've gone that way, one is it's cleaner, it doesn't soot up the heater. 2, we don't like the smell of diesel. We don't mind paraffin because we've been brought up with paraffin heaters in greenhouses and we're used to that smell, but diesel, it's horrid. Okay, electric in the van, use electric hookup. We have 2 solar panels on the van roof with a charge controller. That will power most of the lights for well over a week, and the water pump, and charge our phones, cameras, things like that. We don't have a laptop that we take with us. We don't have a television. We don't have a radio. We don't own or possess any DVDs. We just don't buy them. and we've got very few CDs. That's at home or anywhere else. We just don't listen to music unless it's on the radio at home. So we don't have that outlay. Now in terms of clothes for the van, we tend to buy, when they're reduced, these super lightweight material clothing like hiking trousers and shirts. They're very quick drying, so that saves on bills to do with laundrettes, because you can hand wash. You have to hand wash most of them, but it does actually dry quicker in a van, you know, if it's cold weather. Otherwise you've got to pay for a tumble dryer or something. Now in all of this, our conclusion is it's very, very, very difficult to live green or have a low carbon footprint these days. You're limited by obviously what you do, what you buy, but then what you buy is governed by what the supermarkets are going to do. You know, you just can't buy meat easily. Even from a butcher, they put it in some sort of plastic bag and put a thing around the top. We found it very, very difficult. But we're doing our best, and this is where we are. Now, we always thought Germany led by example with their recycling. But after watching a recent YouTube on the biggest hole on the planet, or the biggest hole in Europe, where I have open cast mining for low grade coal, I think it is, which smokes like the clappers, and they've got a most enormous open cast quarry in the world, on the planet. And for us to save, you know, recycled plastic bag here and there seems very pointless when you have massive companies doing this. So unless major industry changes, for what we do as individuals does make a slight difference. So we could spend a year recycling and reducing the carbon footprint, only for Donald Trump to launch one rocket attack at a building, and all that saving we've done is gone just like that, just by one action by him or people like him. What's going to happen with Brexit, I've no idea. But hope you enjoyed this chat or waffle or whatever you like to call it. But this is my take on trying to become green. We are doing our best, but we're hampered by the big companies who insist on plastic. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like.